Everyone, welcome to a 1v1. This is going to be between DuckloadRA and Sjow. It's going to be a Protoss versus Terran, and we are on the map Delta Quadrant. And the players are cross-spawned from each other, so we probably are going to see a macro map. And in terms of what build style I might predict DuckloadRA might be going, I think he's going to be going his what is his standard now, one gate to Robo facility. He goes one gateway straight to robotics facility, and what that does is against Terran is it allows him to scout into his base very easily with that quick observer, and also if he needs the immortal to defend against an early push, he can also chrono boost that out as well. Additionally, he can transition into Colossus pretty well, and also the use of warp prisms on this map and just warp prisms in general is something that Duckload is very known for. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if we see Duckload make some warp prisms and have them fly around the map and doing some dual prong attacks, especially if the Terran chooses to expand right here. Or right here, excuse me, because Duckload can then use this ledge and abuse it, warp in some High Templar, warp in some Stalkers, or bring in an immortal and start tearing down at the at the command center here. So I'm sure the Terran player is wary of this, and Duckload is also wary of the fact that the Terran player can do the same thing to him. So usually it's interesting to see when players decide to expand here and when they decide to expand out here. See, this this expansion is very out in the open. It's pretty difficult to defend, but then again, so is this one because of this ledge right here. So you really need some detection. Colossus are all right for this, but Colossus and Observers are alright for this, but this is really kind of a dangerous spot. The longer the game goes on, because that just makes it that much more easier to drop. So Duckload now scouting, seeing that they are cross-spawned, and Sjow in terms of what he will go, typically to match the Warp Prism strategy or the Colossus strategy, you'll usually see a double racks into a Stargate. So we're probably going to see Vikings or dropships or both against Duckload. That's typically what you will see if the Protoss player does decide to go for Colossus, because Vikings work pretty well against Colossus, assuming you have enough. If you have only two, they're not really that worth it, but you need like 4 to 6, then you can start sniping out those Colossus, and typically you want to avoid Marines because they'll just get torn up by the splash damage. So you have Marauders, maybe some tanks, but you should also probably have some medevacs. So this Zealot is trying to chase this SCV down, and pretty hard for a Zealot to catch an SCV, so I think he's going to be okay at this point. And a couple of Marines standing up here. So this is what I'm talking about. The Observer makes it very easy to just fly past these Marines and see what the Terran player is doing. But then again, you need to be wary of having that Observer sniped down by a group of Marines. So it's a two-way street, but at least the Protoss player does get easier access to the base. So that's what we see right here. We see a Hellion coming in and two Araxes. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a dropship coming soon, as well as another refinery, because both players are definitely going to need the tech if they are going to be going uh, for a drop play here. So getting a pylon out here, he might be setting up for an expansion, or he might just be spotting this ground out here to see if there are any incoming attacks coming into his base, regardless whether or not he decides to expand there. And there's the robotics facility coming in right now. Taking a look at the production tab, Marauders and Hellions coming in right now. Warp Gates coming for the Protoss player, and Duckload does have this Selnaga tower here, so he is going to be in a good position in case the Terran player does decide to go for an early push, and wisely taking his probe out of there. And somehow that Hellion, the Hellion was able to see the probe because he had the watchtower out there. So I think this probe might be going down. One Stalker trying to go in to assist the poor little guy, but he is definitely out, getting a couple shots, softening up that Hellion just a bit. And Starport coming in right now for the Terran player. So at this point, it is a little bit early for the expansion. Sometimes you will see a fast expansion on this map. I think either player is really in a good spot to do it, since that rush position is long and they will have enough time to prepare for the attack. We see that Duckload is going for that Immortal. I think that is wise, considering the fact that the Terran player does have a decent amount of Marauders here. So it looks like the Terran player is going to be going for this natural expansion, and I think this is exactly what Duckload wants to see, because he's going to be able to abuse that cliff with those warp prisms if he decides to get those. And one immortal coming out right now, just finishing up, popping out of that robotics facility, and robotics bay coming up as well. So getting those Hellions, or just getting those Colossus pretty quick. He's got the double gas up already. Terran player is going to be able to set up for his expansion quite easily. One dropship coming out, so dropship good for heals as well as maneuverability, trying to abuse these areas right here. There's a lot of dead space in StarCraft 2 to just fly units back here. Right here, it's nothing's going to hit you back here in the abyss unless you also have another air unit. So very good map for dropships. And White Ra is actually choosing. Oh, that immortal is stuck, and he's doing a funky dance right there. He's going to town right now on these rocks, shooting his cannons on the destructible debris. So both players might be actually going for that natural instead of the one right outside their base. So 3 Hellions and a Marauder coming in to attack. This is a pretty lethal sight to see. So Duckload might very easily lose some probes here if he's not careful. If Hellions do come and attack your probes, don't run them out in a single line. That is exactly what the Hellion wants. You want to split them up, just like if you're trying to avoid Banelings when you have only Marines. So you want to try to avoid that splash as much as possible. But Duckload does have a Colossus right here. Is moving back a little bit. He is definitely going to be able to prepare. That medevac is softened up a little bit, so Duckload in a good position to defend against that. And Sjow going for that dual prong attack. A little bit hasty with that Hellion getting that medevac to spot the ground for him, but a Colossus coming up right here, and he is definitely going to be able to soften up those Marines without a problem. So I think Sjow is going to back up at this point. There's not much that he can do against Colossus with as many Marines that he has in this game. But his expansion is almost up. The Protoss player does not have an expansion up at all, so he might be soon be getting out-economied here. And Sjow is still just comfortably sitting in this dead space. Like I said, it really that's all he needs to do. He can just keep this dropship here as long as he wants. And it looks like he is spotting the high ground, making good use of that medevac there. Being careful not to get sniped out by those Colossus, because just a couple of lance hits and he's definitely going to be in trouble, and might be able to get that medevac down. Actually, no stalkers for Duckload here, and doing a good job abusing, killing some of those pylons. Taking a look at the resources, he is definitely capped, so he's killed a couple of pylons. More of an annoyance than anything else, but he is keeping the Protoss player on his toes. Meanwhile, the Terran player is able to comfortably expand here. Already has his SCV party going in to start slicing up these juicy mineral patches. One pylon getting built again, and actually 3 pylons here, so he's going to be able to reinforce this place pretty easily. If any dropship comes out and tries to snipe a pylon, he's got 2 more. So I think not a bad defensive maneuver. Always good to have extra force, extra warp fields in on the base. And looking at the production, extended thermal lance is coming up, and war prisms are going to be built for White Ra as well, and combat shield for the Marines. So the Terran player is not opting to go Vikings. Oh, we see 2 Vikings being produced right now, so that's definitely what he needs. I think at this point all the Terran player really can do is just harass around the ledge, but without Vikings he is not really in a good place to start attacking, because those Colossus are just going to rip into that Bile Ball. And the medevacs abusing this high ground here. Looks like Duckload's observer is sitting in his base, so he does know what to anticipate from his opponent here. But at the same time, he does need to stay a little bit on edge. I don't really think that Marauder is going to be able to do that much. That Colossus easily able to peek over that cliff. So I don't think that medevac is going to be doing all that much right now. It's kind of a static game at this point. A Warp Prism actually being warped in and taking out all of those SCVs there. So I think they got a couple of SCVs, 2, 3, 1 SCVs, so 6 SCVs in total. Not a bad drop at all. And also causing the Terran player to pull back and defend his base. So pretty good drop right there by DuckloadRA, and Vikings are now going to be spotting this War Prism. That is why this guy is flying far, far away. So it's a little bit easier for Terran to abuse these cliffs with dropships than it is for Protoss to abuse those War Prisms there. And you might be asking, why is he doing this right now? Well, because sometimes it's nice if you warp in some units and then actually transport them in your warp prism. Then you can warp in some more, so you kind of save some cooldowns there, and you have more units at once. So that's sometimes what I see Duckload doing there. And a Temple of Archives coming in too. Templar Archives, excuse me, coming in as well. So he's not opting to go. He's got 3 Colossus right there, but he is going for a heavy tech. So not really opting to go that many sentries or stalkers, which I think is kind of a mistake, because you need a good amount of stalkers to deal with the Vikings, because they will be countering the Colossus quite well. However, there is Storm on the way for DuckloadRA, so he's going to be able to attack this Bio Ball from 2 fronts pretty well. So AoE is always what is going to be the downfall of a Bio Ball. If you get a couple of Psystorms and a couple of Colossus on there, it's going to be very difficult. So I think Duckload is making a good decision here by getting both, because then it just makes it that much more hard to counter area of effect damages. Sjow setting up in this position right here, so he's got a couple of tanks on this ground trying to spot where the Colossus might be, if they can soften him up before the battle starts. And I don't know if Storm is just almost finishing, so hopefully he's going to be able to get that before the battle comes in. The Terran player now setting up. It's very important to keep your tanks out in a ledge over here, somewhere over here, and split them up and not have them too close to each other, so you just don't blink on top of all the tanks and start killing them all one by one. So it's nice to have them spread out a little bit. One bit of X spotting to see where they all are, and Storm is ready right now. Charge is being upgraded as well. One more Warp Prism being produced, so we might see another attack coming in while the Terran player is encroaching on this position. The Observer is here. I'm surprised the Terran player hasn't spotted this ob. Maybe he just doesn't have enough energy to scan this, but it should be pretty obvious that there's a little blob right here. Seeing exactly what the Terran player is, and the Terran player is pretty nervous to attack in this position right now, as he should be. Honestly, I think he really should just be attacking, really should just be getting Vikings right now, trying to counter the Colossus, and then maybe use some dropships, drop on the High Templar. I think that would be his move, but instead he is opting to go for a Ghost Academy and getting that EMP. I think that's something he needs, but as of right now, I think he could attack assuming that he had more Vikings. So I think Duckload definitely has the superior composition. Getting level 1 upgrade, which is fantastic for Colossus. The more splash damage that you can get just makes him so much more effective against that Bile Ball. Taking a look at the army size here, the Terran player has far surpassed Duckload. So despite the fact that his unit composition is pretty good, I think that the Terran player is just going to be able to out-economy Duckload. So all Duckload is really able to do right here is just kind of slow down his economic advantage, but he is going to be able to maintain it pretty well. Ghosts coming in, Marines coming in right now, so those elves really weren't able to kill that much. Maybe able to kill the Ghost, that would definitely be worth it. That one Ghost kill would have been very nice for Duckload, but his army size is really pretty dwindled. I'm surprised that he's not using that Warp Prism and potentially trying to expand somewhere. I think he really should be doing that. But he is now pretty contained. Now he is moving out, so Duckload is moving out on this position, and he is getting fired away from those Vikings on those Colossus, but a lot of good Psystorms going in. That Bile Ball is completely obliterated, at least the Marines are, but I don't think that is enough for Duckload to deal with, and that, folks, I think is going to be GG for Duckload. He pretty much has nothing left. He might be able to warp in a couple of High Templar, but he really is only on one mining base right now. A couple of Zels coming in, trying to do whatever he can. One Psystorm going on this position. A lot of weak Marauders and Marines, but Duckload at this point is losing a lot of production. And I think that is going to be game for Duckload. Even if he does mop up this attack, which I don't think he's going to be able to, he's still going to be completely out-economied, and that is the GG. So, things that I thought could have been better on this match was that I really didn't see a lot of ledge abuse. And it looks like that both players prepared defensively for that ledge abuse pretty well. I think that's why we really didn't see it. Duckload was afraid of Vikings, and this medevac here was afraid of the Colossus. Just being able to peek over and reach in here. I think I don't necessarily think that Ducklo needed to get High Templar. I think some more Stalkers would have been better because you saw that the meat that Ducklo had just got completely smashed up here by the Terran Force and by those tanks, or he really didn't have enough. By that point, he didn't really even need Vikings. He could have just stimmed up and used his Marauders to kill the rest of those Colossus. I thought the Terran player had good composition. I don't really think he needed Ghosts, but it wasn't a bad touch. I think some more Vikings would have been nice to immediately snipe out those Colossus. And also, Vikings are great harass. You just fly in here and you don't even need dropships. You just drop them down and there's the Viking attack. So I think more Vikings would have been nice, but really what carried the Protest player or the Terran player was the fact that he did expand here. One thing that I've noticed about Ducklo's game is that he really doesn't expand as much as he needs to. I see him playing on two bases a lot. And I think the reason that maybe it works for him is that he does get this Psystorm and the Colossus at the same time, which is very high tech but very effective against Bioball. However, I think he should be trying to expand more. He was really contained most of the game, where I think he should have been the aggressor with those Colossus. So that is the game, everyone, and please rate, comment, and subscribe. Thumbs up. And yep, enjoy the clip at the end. Peace.